Hello everyone, glad to be back. Today is 12th of September, now it's 9 o'clock in the morning, Moscow time. I'm Levan Gudadze and this is my first update for the day in which I will share all the main news that are making headlines in Russian media outlets and Russian language pages on different internet platforms. There are quite a few very significant developments and news that I'd like to share with you for this moment. But before I start, let me address several topics. First of all, about yesterday's update. I know that many members of our community was unable to watch update or listen to update on the phone. I myself did try to open video on the phone, but it was impossible to do, at least for several hours. Towards the afternoon, it was possible to watch on the phone, but first initial 3-4 hours, for whatever reasons, YouTube was I don't know, blocking videos to be watched on the phones. I don't know, maybe this is new way of YouTube to surprise channels that they don't like. I'm not expert in technical stuff, and I know there was an issue, but that issue was generated by YouTube itself, not by me, because on a PC or notebook you can easily open video, and there was no issues with sound or video itself. But anyway, I apologize for that inconvenience. Hopefully today video will open on all the gadgets, on all the tools that we use. And of course, by the way, let me thank you for very kind words and congratulations. Many of you did comment yesterday under the video and did congratulate me with birthday, which is today, by the way, and well, thank you very much. And because it's my birthday today, I would not be able to stay active on in the comment sections as I usually are, and I would not be able to be active on a Telegram page. But by the way, and because as I mentioned yesterday, my family did invite me to a boat ride on Moscow River, and well, I will try to compensate with the video footage from Moscow River, of banks of the Moscow, and hopefully you will like it. I will upload video on second channel, I will try at least, and of course I will make a separate video for Patreon community, and I will upload video on Patreon also. Okay, that's been said. Let's talk about news now, and I will start with a short summary of the situation on the battlefield. And according to latest news that I read on different Telegram pages, no significant changes on the front line, on any of the sectors of the front line. But let's start from southern sectors, and first of all, let me share with you additional information about news that I reported yesterday about these two drilling platforms in the Black Sea on the west side of Crimean Peninsula, in which Ukrainian side did conducted some kind of amphibious operation. They sent their troops on these empty platforms, by the way, and they make some video footage and left, according to latest reports, including from Rebar, by the way, biggest military channel in Russian segment of the internet. After these videos was made, Ukrainian forces left these platforms, and well, if that's the case, then I guess I was correct yesterday when I said that it's quite possible that if such an operation did take place from Ukrainian side and they did send their troops on these platforms, probably it was a media campaign, some kind of, and looks like it was exactly that. Let's continue, by the way. And when it comes to Kherson region, it's operational pause artillery duels between the sides, recon operations, and of course constant fight for control over these small islands on the Dnieper River and delta of this river. But overall nothing is happening in the scale that will influence situation on this sector of the front. When it comes to Zaporozhye and South Donetsk direction, also operational pause. Seems like Ukrainian forces kind of run out of steam, or maybe they are waiting for to accumulate as much forces as they possibly can in Orekhov bridgehead, because lately, last several days, including previous 24 hours, there are no reports about significant activity of Ukrainian forces or attempts by Ukrainian forces, large-scale attempts of Ukrainian forces to conduct operations in direction of Verbovo, in direction of Novoprokopovka. Mainly they are concentrating forces in this bridgehead and are digging in, reinforcing their positions. And I guess they are doing this because they do understand quite well that Russian side may conduct counteroffensive on its own and cut entire this grouping of Ukrainian forces from Orekhov, let's say, main base, main logistical hub of Ukrainian side in this sector. And in that case, of course, this grouping of forces will be forced to surrender or will be neutralized in other ways. But overall, at least for this moment, it's operational pause. Nothing is happening in the scale that will influence entire situation. Same goes for South Donetsk sector of the front line, artillery duels between the sides, recon operations, and basically drone wars. Drones are used very actively by both sides, and basically on the line of contact and in close vicinity from line of contact, and nothing is safe because of this active use of drones. But overall, while you're reading informations about these sectors of the front, you may get the feeling that there is two possible scenarios. One is that Ukrainian forces just truly run out of steam and they cannot any longer sustain these local scale offensive operations on this land bridge between Crimea and mainland Russia, or they are concentrating last reserves that they have to conduct second wave of counteroffensive because before rainy season begins. Maybe it's a second scenario. Maybe Ukrainian side is concentrating its forces, and at some point in next several days we will see large-scale attempt of Ukrainian armed forces to move forward, especially in Orekhov bridgehead. But who knows? Maybe they just truly run out of steam because they had immense casualties during this counteroffensive. And by the way, I remind you that about a week ago, Russian Defense Minister Sergei Shoigu did made statement that since the beginning of this so-called counteroffensive, Ukrainian side lost about 66,000 military personnel and thousands and thousands of pieces of military equipment, from tanks and armored personnel carriers to artillery systems. So they had incredible, immense casualties. And I remind you also that before this counteroffensive began, there was reports that Ukrainian side only had about 60 to 80,000 military personnel in strategic reserve, and that's it. So basically, Zelensky and his associates definitely lost vast majority of the strategic reserves. And it's quite possible that they just have no means now to continue this so-called counteroffensive or to conduct second wave of counteroffensive. But let's see, time will tell. At least for now, we have reports that Ukrainian side is still concentrating, sending more and more units in direction of Orekhov bridgehead, in direction of Vremovsky salient, and that may be indicator that at some point in next several days, Kyiv regime will begin its second wave of this suicidal operation under the name of counteroffensive. And by the way, when it comes to Donetsk sector of the front line, it's also local scale skirmishes between the sides, local scale battles, artillery duels, and constant attempts from Russian side to distract logistical lines of Ukrainian forces that are moving through Donetsk sector of the front line. Overall, nothing is happening in the scale that will influence situation on this sector of the front line. Same goes not just for this kind of situation, not just on the southern flank of Donetsk direction, Marinka, Krasnogorovka, Avdiivka, but also in the northern flank of Donetsk direction, Bakhmut and surrounding areas. There are some reports that Ukrainian forces are trying to regain initiative in between Kurdyumovka, Klishevka areas. They are kind of attacking Andreevka, but quite unsuccessfully. And yet again, I have to repeat myself, but me personally don't believe that Kyiv regime has enough strength in this area to even hope for more or less significant success. So they would not be able to regain initiative, I'm quite sure about it. And when it comes to northern flank of Bakhmut, situation is unchanged. Initiative is in Russian side, and if any one side is conducting offensive, local scale offensive operations or operations to improve current positions, it's Russian forces. Ukrainian side was quite passive in northern flanks of Bakhmut for I will say more than a month now. So they did definitely run out of steam in this area. And when it comes to northern sectors, also usual stuff, artillery duels between the sides from Seversk and up to Kupiansk and Kharkov region. It's artillery duels, drone wars, of course, and well, we on daily basis receiving reports that Russian side is improving their positions on daily basis. But yet again, already Russian forces are in just 2-3 kilometers from Kupiansk, let's say, here in Kharkov region. And to move forward, then they have to undertake a large-scale operation to encircle Kupiansk, or at least to establish control on the left bank of this city. And by the way, city itself is built on the Oskol River, and by this river it's divided on two. And whatever level of operation Russian side should undertake in this area, it will demand large-scale planning, large-scale operation, and that's prerogative of Moscow. General staff. Will Moscow greenlight large-scale Russian offensive this autumn in next several days or weeks? That's question for $1 million, by the way, because no one knows answer. Although many military experts are expecting a Russian counteroffensive exactly in this area, in the northern sectors of the front line. And by the way, this is it for short summary of the situation on the front line. As I said, nothing is happening in the scale that will influence overall situation on the one or another or any of the sectors of the front line, although it's constant local scale skirmishes between the sides, artillery duels, and drone wars. This conflict, this military conflict, will definitely go down in history as a first military conflict with the extreme level of usage of drones. And by the way, before I continue with some other news, let me notice that this channel, this project exists only thanks to support of members of our community. And I will be immensely grateful if you will also consider to support my work with small donations through PayPal, Buy Me a Coffee, or by subscribing to my Patreon page. You will see links under this video in the description box or in the pinned comment. That's being said, let's talk about some other news. And first of all, breaking news for this morning, which is that Airbus A300320 of Ural Airlines did conducted emergency landing in fields, by the way, in the fields, and not far away from Novosibirsk. And according to latest news, on board of this plane was 159 passengers and 6 members of the crew. 23 child was on this board, and what is most important, pilots did manage to land plane without crashing it, and no one was injured, and everyone is safe. Even plane itself are not really damaged when it comes to airframe, and according to latest news that we are receiving, equipage pilots did receive warning that hydraulic system of the plane was failing, and pilots made decision to land on the field because they was afraid that braking system would not work if they will fly towards airport, and they would not be able to stop on the field. So I guess they did made the right decision. They did save all the passengers, and they did save plane itself also. This is breaking news for this moment. Investigation, of course, will be conducted, and sometime in the future we will learn some more. And let's continue. RIA Novosti is reporting that Russian West grouping of forces conducted 24 sorties of strikes in Kupiansk direction. Russian helicopters and attack planes of West grouping of forces conducted 24 sorties against Ukrainian positions in Kupiansk direction. Once again, this information does indicates that well, Russian forces are well prepared and improving their preparedness on daily basis to conduct large-scale offensive operation in Kupiansk direction and in direction of northern sectors in general. But yet again, question is, will Moscow highlight this, or will Moscow greenlight, I should say, this large-scale offensive operation during the next several weeks? I don't know, but it may happen. Although as time goes by, chances that we will see large-scale Russian offensive in autumn is, of course, becoming smaller. But anyway, let's continue. RIA Novosti is also reporting about statements that former Russian president and current deputy chairman of Security Council, Dmitry Medvedev, did made. Well, this is quite serious because Medvedev did propose to cut diplomatic relationships with EU member states, with EU, which is a very serious statement in my understanding, because he's deputy chairman of Security Council, and maybe this type of move have been discussed in Security Council, in high-ranking echelons of the power in Russia, in power structure in Russia. And well, Medvedev did said that this type of move from Russia, from Moscow, may bring to the senses so-called Western elites, because it's well known that diplomatic ties are cut between the countries usually before war. And when I did read the headline of this news, I did think exactly about that. That if Russia will cut diplomatic relationships with the EU member states, if not with all of them, at least with some of them, because I did not see any reason why should Russia cut diplomatic ties, let's say, with Hungary, which is a member of EU, of course, and the NATO. But well, I was thinking exactly about this topic, what Medvedev mentioned, that usually diplomatic ties are cut before hot war, before military conflict perhaps between the countries. And well, let's hope statements in itself will be enough, and there will be no cut in diplomatic relationships between Russia and EU member states, because of course that would be extreme deterioration of relationships between the sides. But anything is possible at this point. Anything is possible, including cut of diplomatic relationships between Russia and EU member states, and possibly in that case, possibly with US, Canada, maybe Australia, Japan, and some other countries that are acting extremely unfriendly, let's say, towards Russia. But let's see how will situation develop. And next news is reported by TASS News Agency, which is based on CNN's reporting, according to which State Department of US and Pentagon are advising Biden's administration to send ATACMS long-range missiles to Zelensky and his associates. I guess a decision has already been made, and now we are just seeing some media campaign to somehow justify this move of extreme escalation from on part of Western so-called elites. And I guess it's only a matter of time, maybe even days, when statement will be made in Washington that ATACMS will arrive in Ukraine. And by the way, once that kind of statement will be made, we should probably take it as a factual evidence that those missiles already are in Ukraine, because that's how Western so-called elites are acting. They are making statements only after weapons already are delivered to Zelensky and his associates. I don't think situation will be different with ATACMS. And by the way, who knows, maybe once US will deliver ATACMS missiles, maybe Russia will cut diplomatic ties with US. Maybe that will be beginning of the end of diplomatic relationships between two countries for a while. Anyway, let's continue. RT is reporting that Poland signs a deal for nearly 500 HIMARS launchers. Poland in recent years are very actively spending on military. They are buying weapons, offensive weapons, by the way, all around the world, from South Korea to US, of course, and they definitely are preparing for a war. They definitely are preparing for a war, but for a war with whom? I don't think Polish elites are that crazy that they will conduct war against, let's say, Germany. Although relationships between Poland and Germany are deteriorating almost on monthly basis, really. Maybe some war hawks in Polish elites are thinking that it would be a good idea for Poland to conduct military operation against, let's say, Belarus or Russian Kaliningrad region, which would be suicidal, of course, for Polish elites. Suicidal mistake, absolutely. And well, maybe Poland is getting ready to fight Ukrainian Nazis in western regions of Ukraine when they will send their forces in West Ukraine and try to establish control of these regions. That's a possibility also, because I'm quite sure Ukrainian neo-Nazis will give a fight to Polish troops and to forces of other NATO member states that will participate in this operation of establishing control over the western regions of Ukraine. But numbers are still extremely high, by the way. 500 HIMARS missile systems, I mean, really? I'm not sure even if US has so many missile launchers. I don't know. But anyway, let's let's continue. Poland definitely, at least on paper, becoming one of the major military powers in NATO. At least on the paper, yet again. And well, this is also quite interesting. News RT is reporting that US is to unfreeze $6 billion in Iran prisoner swap deal. Well, sides did make deal that they will exchange prisoners. I guess it's spies. And to conduct such a deal, probably Tehran demanded some Iranian funds to be unfroze. And well, they will receive $6 billion. They will receive $6 billion dollars, which is good for Iran. Good for Iran, of course, because all these sanctions of the US and the West in general against Iran are illegal in the first place. And then the Iranian funds never supposed to be frozen at all. Let's continue. But this example, this is a quite example how in the future some deals may be conducted between Russia and the Western states. Whenever any deal will be conducted, probably Western states will unfreeze several billion of Russian frozen assets in the Western in Western world, and well, this will continue probably for decades. This type of relationship. But anyway, let's continue. German-made, by the way, also artists report the German-made drone had been used to attack Russian territory. So let me read several sentences. Ukrainian forces have reportedly utilized a German-made drone on Russian soil for the first time, deploying the unmanned aerial vehicle in a failed attack on Bryansk region. And well, we are talking about mid-range vector drone. That's a vector drone, by the way, that was used by Ukraine to strike on Russian soil. And to me personally, of course, this is not a surprise. Although Western so-called elites constantly are saying that weapons that they are delivering to Zelensky and his associates will not be used on Russian soil against Russia, but in reality, of course, those weapons are used. Those weapons and technologies are used against Russia on Russian soil, and well, this is just factual confirmation of that information that we did knew anyway. And what you think Zelensky and his associates will do once they will receive German Taurus long-range cruise missiles? They can promise that they will not use those missiles to strike deep inside Russian territory, but can anyone in straight mind trust single word of Zelensky and his criminal inner circle? Of course not. But anyway, let's continue. RT is reporting that, and by the way, I'm quite sure once US will deliver ATACMS missiles to Kyiv regime, Germany will make statements that they will also deliver those Taurus long-range missiles, if not earlier. Let's continue, and this is also RT's report about statements that official representative of Russian Foreign Ministry, Maria Zakharova, did made. And well, according to her, EU is racist against Russians. And well, let me read several sentences. So, European Union's ban on Russian nationals bringing personal items into the bloc has nothing to do with sanctions and is instead an expression of blatant racism by Western officials. Russian Foreign Ministry spokeswoman Maria Zakharova has claimed Well, not sure racism, I'm not sure really, because well, maybe some leaders of Western states are not educated enough to know that vast majority of Russian citizens are Indo-Europeans, like majority of citizens of European states are, including those very same leaders, so-called leaders of the Western states. So, I mean, they cannot be racist towards Russia, but Russians, or majority of Russians, but they can definitely be xenophobic, and they are. They truly are Russophobes, these so-called elites of the West, and unfortunately they are conducting such a level of propaganda, they are conducting this anti-Russian Russophobic propaganda in such a scale that unfortunately many citizens, I'm afraid many citizens of Western states have been indoctrinated in this Russophobic mindset, with this Russophobic mindset. And to be honest, even if I had the opportunity to travel in EU countries, I will not. I will just simply did not go to European states, although I do love history, I do love to get to know to other cultures, and I will be happy to travel in Greece, for example, or in Italy, but I would not do it. I will not, because I know vast majority of so-called leaders in the Western states, in EU states, are extremely Russophobes, and this ideology have been pushed on societies also. And it's not just states that are acting, state institutions that are acting xenophobically in relation to Russians. But I'm afraid at some point societies in the Western states, some representatives of societies, just ordinary humans, will also start acting extremely aggressively towards Russian nationals. Maybe it's already happening, by the way. Maybe it's already happening, because the level of this Russophobic propaganda in the West is just unbelievable, and eventually, of course, ordinary people will become influenced by this Russophobic propaganda. So it is what it is, man. Quite unfortunate development, but well, RIA Novosti, and to be honest, by the way, I don't really understand those citizens of Russia that are traveling to Europe. They have been warned for several times, by the way, including by Foreign Ministry, that they will receive very unwelcome approach, or very unfriendly approach from state institutions of the EU member states. People have been warned, but they are still continuing, for whatever reasons, to travel in Europe. And then they are complaining that, you know what, our cars was taken, our phones were taken, or notebooks, or why you are even traveling in the first place to countries that are not friendly to you or to your country. But, you know. Anyway, let's continue. And RIA Novosti is reporting that official Paris is basically refusing to comment, refusing to explain why Russian journalists were not allowed on the press conference of Macron during G20 summit in New Delhi. Russian side was very upset about it, and Russian Foreign Ministry did make quite strong statements about it. But yet again, do we really need explanation from French government? No, because we already know that they are Russophobes. That's it. They are Russophobes, they are enemies of Russia. French elites are enemies of Russia. That's it. And French government is enemy of Russia. They are Russophobes, and they are enemies, and they should be treated as such. And in that case, there will be no surprises that Russian journalists were not allowed. Of course, they would not. Anyway, let's continue. TASS news agency is reporting that, well, Kremlin did make statement that in coming days, maybe today, maybe tomorrow, leader of North Korea, Kim Jong-un, will have a meeting with the president of Russian Federation, Vladimir Putin. This meeting will take place in Vladivostok, in far east of Russia, where Eastern Economic Forum is taking place these days. And well, quite interesting development. If you remember, just about several weeks ago, Defense Minister of Russia did visit North Korea. Now Kim Jong-un is in Russia, and well, something is going on, definitely. Something is going on, and I think it's not just about deliveries of, let's say, artillery systems or shells from North Korea to Russia. I think something bigger is happening, and well, probably we will find out in foreseeable future which topics really was discussed during Shoigu's visit in North Korea and during Kim Jong-un's visit and talk with visit in Russia and talk with Putin. But by the way, in the Western media, I did see publications that Russia delivered to North Korea ICBMs, intercontinental ballistic missiles, which is not true, by the way. Russia never ever delivered to any country any ICBMs. This is not the weapon system that can be sold. Absolutely. And well, there may be some exchange of technologies. Russia may did give North Korea some technologies, but definitely not missiles themselves. So all those Western media outlets that were writing that Russia did give ICBMs, and some medias even were saying about Topol-M ICBMs. But this is all not correct, by the way. Russia did not deliver any ICBMs and will not deliver any ICBMs to North Korea or any other country, by the way. These weapons are not for sale. But from point of view of technologies, well, Russia may help. Yes, Russia may help North Korea to improve their missile capabilities. Anyway, let's continue. TASS news agency is reporting that South Korea will of course closely monitor this visit of Kim Jong-un in Russia, and they should, of course, they should, because increase in relationships between improvement in relationships and decrease, let's say, in economical relationships between North Korea and Russia definitely poses some threat to South Korea, because and it may be warning, let's say this way, for South Korea to, you know, to stay, or at least try to stay neutral, and do not act extremely aggressively towards Russia, because Russia definitely has tools to respond. And the government of South Korea probably knows that. And at least for now, Seoul was not that aggressive, let's say this way, towards Russia. They are obligated by the Western masters to introduce some sanctions on Russia and to act hawkishly, but they definitely try not to aggravate relationships with Russia, at least for now. At least for now, and that's why I think Moscow will stay on more or less friendly terms with South Korea. But anyway, let's meanwhile developing relations with North Korea, of course. Let's continue on several news about some economical stuff, and that's it for this update. So IranUS is reporting that according to head of Russia's biggest bank, German Gref, and he is the head of Sber Bank of Russia. According to him, there will be no increase in interest rates in foreseeable future. In several days, Russian central bank will have a meeting, and previously there was some reports that central bank may increase interest rate once again. But well, we have report here that Gref, for example, do not expect such a step from central bank, which and he probably does have some inside information. So maybe central bank and Russian government in general don't see current situation with ruble to be extremely difficult. And by the way, when it comes to ruble itself, Russian currency did regain some positions, and now exchange rate is this is today's news, by the way, from this morning. Exchange rate is 93 rubles for $1. So ruble is strengthening little bit, and therefore maybe truly there is no reason to increase interest rates. And Gref is correct. Gref is correct. But anyway, even though Russian ruble did experience some difficulties in previous weeks and months, and went to some turbulence, overall ruble is still, I will call it, quite stable. And inflation numbers are not extreme, at least for this moment. And this is going to be last news for today's update. RT is reporting that Russia is unlikely to ditch dollar and euro completely, which is of course quite understandable. This was stated by Andrei Kostin, head of second biggest Russian bank, VTB. And well, in this regard, I will agree with this individual, head of VTB, because the US dollar, even if and when BRICS will create its own currency, which will definitely become world's most popular reserve currency with time, by the way, even then US dollar and euro will remain as a world reserve currencies, and I don't think why should Russia drop completely savings in dollars and euros. I mean, there is no need in that. And after all, this conflict in Ukraine one day will definitely end, and relationships between Russia and Western states will begin to improve. Not straight away, but sometime in the future it will happen. It's just inevitable, isn't it? So yes, this is it for today. I hope you will find this update interesting, and if so, please click that like button and leave some commentary about any topic you like. And if you can, please share links to my videos or my channel with your friends on Facebook, Twitter, Telegram, or any other platform that you are active on. This will definitely help me to reach wider audience, and if you think this channel is interesting, useful, and deserves to exist, please consider to support with small donations through PayPal, Buy Me a Coffee, or by subscribing to my Patreon page. You will see links under this video in the description box or in the pinned comment. This is it for now. Have a great day and take care.